Hi, everyone. This is Latonya Wilkins. I have some special information for you today. Most of you guys know that I wrote a book. It's called I Choose Me. Today, what I want to do is I want to tell you a secret. And this secret is going to help save a lot of lives. Um, you can send this message or this video through an instant message to some of your friends who might need this. But I'm going to talk to you about how to leave a toxic relationship or a narcissistic spouse. Um, in my book, I talk about a relationship that I was in that was very abusive. And I also talk about previous relationships that I was in as a child that set me up to be in an abusive relationship. Um, when I left my spouse, I planned it. Okay. Leaving someone is a very difficult thing, especially when you have children, and you have to pre plan it. It's not something that you can just pick up and say, oh, I'm going to leave this person. It has to be well thought out. If you are with someone who is abusive or controlling, you have to really be meticulous in how you plan your escape. What I did was I wasn't working. I was a stay-at-home mom. So I had to really consider my resources and the amount of money that I would have in order to stay gone. So that's very important. A lot of times when you're trying to leave someone, you're looking for outsiders for help. You're looking for family and friends. You're looking for people in your corner that can be supportive. Sometimes you're not going to find that. Sometimes you're not going to have family members that are very close to you or friends that are very close to you that are going to support your decision to leave this spouse. It could be for monetary reasons, it could be for other reasons that that spouse is creating an environment in which the people around you don't want to help you, or they can't help you, or they don't feel comfortable helping you because that person has done so much for the people that are supposed to be your support system. For me, my support system that I turned to was God. Um, I one day I went into the mirror and I was looking at myself. And after talking to some other people in my life that I was hoping to get emotional and mental support from, I didn't have anyone at the end of the day. And a lot of women wouldn't have left because they didn't feel like they were strong enough to leave. But if you have been through abuse for a number of years or a number of months, you're a strong person. Believe me, you're not a weak person. You're a very strong person because it takes a lot of willpower to stay with someone who's constantly beating you down on a daily basis. Um, what I did was I looked in the mirror and I said, I'm leaving. I said it, and I felt like as soon as I said it, I heard a voice in my head. And I believe that voice was God, the Holy Spirit speaking to me, guiding me, telling me what to do. And I made that decision. I didn't have to announce it to the world. I made a decision to myself that I deserved better than how I was living. And a lot of people, it would have been hard or difficult for them to leave because they, for myself, I grew up in a humble beginning. I grew up in Baltimore. We lived in the city at times, we lived in the county. So, when you're getting spoiled and having some of these things that are materialistic for someone who didn't grow up having those types of things, it makes you stay in that situation and you don't feel like you're going to get better. And some people around you who you love dearly will tell you that you're not going to get any better than that. And that is a complete lie. Let me tell you. So what I did was that once I made that decision, it seemed like a flood of information started coming through my head. And I believe it was God. I believe I give it all to him for the glory. That he was telling me things to do. So what I did first is I went ahead and I got some books. I started reading books about controlling relationships and how women got out of these controlling relationships, women who were being oppressed by their husbands, etc. So when I started reading the book, I did it like any other assignment I do with school. I researched it, and I started seeing information telling me that you need to save money, and whatever you think is the amount of money that you think is a good amount, you need even more. For me, I started selling things that I had in my house on eBay to give me money. I had access to credit cards and things like that, but I didn't have access to a lot of cash. A lot of situations in which you don't work, You don't even realize or understand that the narcissistic spouse that you're with, they don't want to give you cash because they don't want you to save your money. They don't want you to have your own money. A lot of times you get yourself in these type of situations when you don't work. When you're a female, you don't work, you give a lot of power and control. Vice versa. If you're a man and you live with a woman, you notice that she handles you a little bit differently when you're not the working force in the household. So that person speaks to you differently. That person controls you through material things. And a lot of times you'll notice that you get things when they do something to you. So it's kind of like a reward punishment type thing. I'm going to punish you and then I'm going to reward you for going through the punishment and not saying anything. Um, so I went and I researched. I started looking for books. I started selling some things for cash. The person I was with did also have a lot of money, so I was able to, when I did get cash or when I saw an abundance of cash, it wasn't a big deal to that person. I took some of it and I saved it. I started to use the credit cards and I bought gift cards. I bought gift cards at stores and I saved those gift cards for when I left. Because I had access to credit cards, I took it and started to get the things I needed, comforter sets, towels, washcloths, things like that, that I would need once I moved into my new place because I needed to have everything prepared before my exit. When my daughter was in school, I got a storage compartment, and every time I dropped her off in preschool, I would take the stuff out the trunk and I would put it in my storage compartment. So a lot of times I wasn't able to drive without having the kids in the car. So I had to always take my children everywhere I went. So the night before, I would put things in the garage and then I would load them up in the morning in my car without my spouse knowing about it. And I would put them in the car. And then on the way, after I dropped my daughter off at preschool, I would take them and I would put them in the storage department so that I would have it. Um, and this happened over 6 months. Another thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that I was debt free. I wanted to make sure I had no debt, no bills, etc. So if you have access to that, you want to be able to, pay off those bills as much as you can or get them as low as you can. A lot of times for women in relationships, you want to save up money. If it's possible to use a credit card when you can, use it. You want to get as much cash and you want to try to keep your credit clear and clean. If you have it, if you're in a situation where there is money available from the other person, then you can use that as a resource. And if you don't have it, if you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of money, you're with a spouse and he doesn't make a lot of money, there are resources that you can go to at the courthouse. You can talk to them. There's programs that are available that will actually help you to leave and help you to get out of that situation. A lot of people wouldn't realize it at the time if I told them, but I stayed in a shelter. I stayed in a women's shelter um, after a few months of reconnecting overnight because of an incident that occurred. And, that was very hard. And just to see the difference in living was hard for me because I had gotten used to this extravagant lifestyle. And then you go to a shelter and it's much different. But for some people, it is necessary and it's only temporary. The thing, and you have to be joyful in the small things that you can do. Like if it's just trying to go to the park with your child, or if it's just trying to do this, you have to do that part and be content in it because you got to know that it's not going to last forever. Okay. So you want to get up as much money if you have to get a side job or something that you can do on the internet or through the telephone. You want to get as much income as you can so that you can put it in a savings. Never let someone know where your secret security blanket lies or so forth. So I started to I started packing my things up, belongings, buying things for my new place. I started going, I looked at apartments that I could move in, and I was going from a very large place to a small apartment. So that was a big transition. But the thing about it was I months before then, I started to detach myself from materialistic things. A lot of people, you go in these relationships and you people, I see women all the times, I see them on the internet and everything, and they're showing these bags, and they're showing this car that they got, and they're showing all of these clothes and stuff like that. And you would never know what they're going through at home. What is the cost and what you're selling yourself for this pocketbook, what you're selling yourself for with this car, this money that people are looking at and admiring you with. So I took that. I went and I got myself a place ahead of time, and I had a date in which I was going to move out, already set. Another thing that I did was I got my daughter enrolled already in school. So on times where I was supposed to be picking her up, I was driving a small distance to where I wanted to live, the location that I wanted to live in. So in all of this stuff, the more and more I did, I noticed the stronger I got. I would get stronger and more excited about leaving. Like I felt like my life was about to change. The funny thing is this always happens. When you're getting ready to leave someone and you're about to make a transition in your life, there's always something that comes up and gives you a little bit of doubt about the person you're with. You think, oh, this person is going to change. They're not going to do that anymore. They're going to behave differently, or they're going to be better. But if the entire relationship did not change, it's not going to happen. It's time to go. A lot of times we don't even realize as people that we're in a abusive relationship or a toxic relationship. Let me tell you what that looks like. Abused person can recognize another abused person by the way they talk, the way they handle themselves, the way they stand. When the spouse calls them and they jump, when the person they're so quick to answer the phone because that person is going to accuse them of things, when they can't, go around their girlfriends, or they can't be, if it's a guy, he can't be around his friends. The person is insecure and intimidating. When someone is quick to argue with you, or when you're going through positive things in your life, they're quick to tear it down. In my book, I Choose Me, I talk about a situation as young as a teenager where my first relationship, um, the person was telling me I was beautiful, and they were telling me they loved me. And I hadn't really heard those words that much. And because of those words, I just clung on to him, and I just loved him with every part of my being. And the crazy thing about it is once I started to build confidence in myself, he started to pull back and criticize me. When I started to have my own confidence, he started to criticize me and tear me down about my physical appearance, about my economic situation, everything. Because he wanted me to know that he is the creator of my happiness. He is the controller of my emotions. And that is abuse. That is abuse. That's what it looks like. So if you're in a situation where someone is doing this on a daily basis and making you feel incomplete, that you need them in order to survive, that's abuse. That's that narcissistic behavior. Um, Yelling at you, demeaning you, disrespecting you, they will do behind the closed doors. And then in front of everybody else, they'll be happy and they'll be quiet and they'll be loving towards you. And then your friends, they think, oh, she is the best man in the world. But a lot of times when them doors are closed, nobody knows what you're going through. Um, when I stood up there, I started to plan. I started to get myself together emotionally. I knew that a lot of things that I held on to that were secure to me were going to be taken away. And I prepared my mind for that. Prepared my mind that my car would look different. My income would look different. The place I lived would look different. How I dressed would be different. How I acted would be different. And I prepared myself for those differences and accepted them, you know. I didn't feel like I had a lot of support, but I made that support through God, and I made that support through my religion, and I read up on it. And I did, have someone who I could confide in. Be very careful about who you confide in. Be careful, because a lot of times that person that you confide in can be the person that tells your abuser that you're leaving, that you're not going to be there. So you want to be very careful and strategic. If you need to take a defense class, take that defense class whenever that person is sleeping, whenever that person is away at work. Take that self-defense class, because you might have to use that in the end when it's time to leave. Um, In my book, when it comes out, people read it. It's a lot of parts in there that I am not I am very fearful of them getting out and fearful of the judgment and things like that and what people will think of me. But I feel like this book is necessary because it's going to help a lot of women. It's going to identify so many things that you never even realized that you've been through in your life and what got you to this point. And it's going to be a way to escape and to get out of that situation or just to live a purposeful life, and know that you are important and you are accounted for and you are loved, and that you can be a whole person. You don't have to depend on relationships to get what it is that you feel like you're missing. Okay. So the things that I want you to remember is I want you to remember that you need to research it. You need to come up with some income that you will have for yourself, whether it is doing something online, doing something over the phone. If you can't work, if somebody's monitoring you leaving, save up your money so that you can be able to escape. Read about it, read stories. I have this book that's coming out. I'm sure it's other things online that you can read. Delete your files. A lot of times I had to delete what I was doing. My spouse didn't want me to get a job, so I couldn't leave out my computer or anything that would leave a trail. If anything, any papers or things that said anything about the apartment that I was living in, I hid them in the inside of my truck that I had. Anything telling what I was doing. Behave normally. My behavior, the things that I did, I tried to be careful. Um, for me, I was in the last bits of getting my doctorate degree, and it pushed me to work harder. Sometimes when you're going through something in your life, use that as your motivation to motivate you and to go stronger. I think sometimes people don't realize that when you have babies, it changes your mindset about a lot of things. It makes you put up with things that you would never normally put up with because of your children. And trying to take them out of their comfort zone and their environment is very scary for you. But the thing about it is that it's going to save their life. It's going to save them from being in a similar situation. It's going to show them some difference, or it's going to show them that when someone treats you like this, that you don't have to stay, that you can leave. um, that's what it's going to do. And sometimes when you think that you have to be together with someone because you have kids, that's not the case. You don't have to. If you're not being treated correctly, if you're not being respected in your household, you need to leave the person that you're with. If you can't work it out, especially if the person is physically and mentally abusing you, and you have tried and attempted to go to therapy and that person is not changing, you can't just rely solely either on you going to therapy. That person has to get fixed. You can't fix yourself and think that you're going to still survive in a toxic relationship, because you're not. So, did the research, save money, take a self-defense class and sit in case you need it. The day that I left, it did not go as planned. I had to leave 3 days earlier than my apartment was ready. Be ready for those type of situations. I also had a situation in mind where my father died right before I was supposed to leave. About maybe a week before I was supposed to leave, I had to bury him. So that was extremely hard. And it's almost like I thought that was my one of my main supporters in me leaving. So that was just kind of weird because it threw me off on a loop. It made me think, well, maybe I'm not supposed to leave, or maybe I should stay. But I thought about that person. I thought about what they wanted from me. And I thought about how they motivated me. And I heard his voice so clearly telling me that this is what you have to do. I had a lot of death, honestly, during that time. Some things, it's almost like the devil will try to detract you and prevent you from leaving, because the devil, he doesn't want you to be happy. He doesn't want you to get out that situation. He wants you to stay being abused. He wants you to be at your wits' end and feeling like you have no way out. So don't worry. Let me tell you, the things that you go through, they will be replaced. They will, and you will be living in abundance. That short amount of time, I went through a lot. I went through having a business, losing it. I went through everything being taken away from me, everything that was given. I went through being on the verge of being homeless. changing my whole career around, completely losing my entire savings account, depleting. But let me tell you, I got all of those things back and more. And what made it even better is that it's in my name. I own it. Nobody has to control me. I'm the creator. Of my happiness. And that's what you're going to be looking for when you try to leave a relationship. Um, if you see a friend of yours, I want you to share this with the person. You don't have to say anything. Send it to them through instant message. Send it through them through a text message if it can, download an email. You know, people, you have a hint, you have a clue. You sense something is off with this person and their relationship, and you can be saving their life. We see people, but we don't say anything. We don't mention it because it's not our place. And a lot of women stay because they have no clue as to how to leave. But there is support systems. There are people that you can talk to about it for just domestic abuse. You can look it online. You can look at your local places to see how it is that you can get help. So I wanted to share this with you guys. I put it in my book, very vulnerable part of my book. But I felt like it was very important for me to tell you guys this because I listen to so many women and hear so many stories, and a lot of us stay, and we don't feel like we have the courage to leave. So please share that. I can't wait to be able to show you this book and have it ready for you guys to read, and the stories and what you'll learn from it. Each one has questions at the end of the chapter, so you can discuss it and a journal through your life. It covers everything. So I wanted to share this gem with you, and I want you to choose you, love you, embrace you. And if you need to let it go, let it go. Move on. You'll be better for it. Okay? All right. Bye bye.